Hi, everyone. This is Veronica from So It Seems, and welcome to podcast number 2. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about quilting. As I mentioned in my first podcast, quilting and sewing are my business. It's also my hobby and pretty much my passion. I've been sewing since I was 9. That's when I believe I was 9 when I first learned how to hand sew. Of course, everything fell apart, but I continued to sew. I had a mom who sewed. My grandmother sewed. I had an aunt who did a lot of sewing. Sewing is just something that is part of who I am. A few years ago, when my son was basically 1 year old, I believe he had just turned 1, and I was looking for a new hobby, a new craft to do. I was kind of burnt out on doll making. I had been doing that. I didn't want to do home decor sewing. I was tired of doing that. And they were also huge, massive projects. I just didn't want to work on that anymore. And my body had been going through a lot of size changes. And so doing clothing sewing wasn't enjoyable. That's when I picked up quilting. And I have not turned back. I have been quilting since then. So that was 2006 when I first started really quilting, and I have loved it all along and have done many different kinds of projects. Most of the quilts that I do are larger quilts, especially for my business. I do a particular kind of quilt called a bookcase quilt, and the most common size that is ordered is a twin, and then the next size is a wall hanging, and that's a little bit smaller, but it's still a good size at 40 by 40. I've heard some people saying that they would love to learn how to quilt, or even quilters that want to progress in what they know how to do. But a quilt just looks like such a huge project to have this huge twin or queen size quilt to work on, to not even know if you really like it, or to get bored with the project. Sometimes some projects just take a long time, and you can get weary of them. One of the one of the greatest projects that you can work on when you want to do quilting but don't want to invest a lot of time is making a mug rug. And I have one here that I've made, and I'd love to show it to you. Mug rugs are fun because, well, let me explain. A mug rug is something that is smaller than a placemat, but larger than a coaster. A coaster is usually just about the size of the bottom of your mug, but a mug rug is something that is designed to have room for your mug and a little treat. So this is a sample of one that I did, and this one is actually going out to a friend for a swap. So I'm part of an online group and we do swaps. And this one is everyone makes a mug rug with a winter theme and mail it to the partner that they have been given. So this is the one that I'm mailing in, and I've done it in blues and whites and some gray to go along with winter colors. But since I make bookcase quilts, I kind of took that idea with doing some books here, uh, just leaning against the side and standing there as if they're kind of in a bookcase, and then a mug of some hot cocoa. The hot cocoa part I did on my embroidery machine, and so you can see that design there. And so that was a pattern that I was able to purchase, and so my machine was able to do that embroidery design, which I just think is super cute. I loved having the opportunity to use it. Then in each of these book spines, I also did some wintry titles. Most of them, you can see a couple of them are hard. So we've got, it says Winter Wonderland. This one is sparkly, so it's hard to read on the screen, but it says Jack Frost. This one is in a really light thread. It was probably the wrong choice for this. but it says Let It Snow. In person, you can see it a little bit better. And then we have Frosty the Snowman. So these are all different, um, different snowy, wintry type of titles that would be on some books. The fun thing with this one is I do free motion quilting, so it's just on my regular machine. And someday I'll show you how I do that. I love doing quilting. But with a small project like this, I think this one measures about 8 by 11, might be closer to 10. So it's not a huge size. And so it's a perfect size to even just practice free motion quilting. And that's when you can take the feed dogs down on your machine, and it allows your fabric to just slide under the needle, and then you can sew in all different directions. And I want to show you, I had fun with this one because I'm trying to tilt it so you can get some of the shadows. I just made kind of the impression of little snowflakes going across. So you can kind of see there's little snowflakes, little swirl lines to connect those snowflakes. And I just did that in all of the negative spaces there in the white. So that was just a really fun project that I had a lot of fun doing. You can kind of see on the back, it's just a solid blue. You can kind of see the quilting design show up back there. So for those that are interested in doing quilting but don't want to really get into a big, huge project that will take weeks, months, sometimes a year or so, something like a mug rug is a perfect size for being able to try out a quilt design and making the pattern and doing the quilting on it too. Sometimes you want to test a block, just making a quilt block, and that can create a mug rug. Mine is rectangular just because of the design and the style that I decided to make. But mug rugs can be all different kinds of sizes. And a fun project might be to just Google mug rugs and click on the images, and you'll see all different kinds of styles and designs. I've seen some that are shape, the outside shape is a hexagon. I did one that was in the shape of a pumpkin and another one that was in the shape of an octopus. And I will get those photos and show those at the end of this podcast, right before the titles. So you can see just some different ideas. And I did another one that was just in batik fabrics, and it was just a simple a braid pattern. So it just had pieces that were um, in a step pattern, such like this, and it just really made a very simple but effective design. So I just wanted to stop in for a little bit, let you know about a way to quilt, but only in a small form instead of being committed to a large project. All right, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye.